Good evening, everyone. This meeting is now called to order. This is the Finance and Economic Development meeting for Monday, December 5th, 2022. I am the chair, Chris Johnson from the 7th District. At this time, I will call the roll for members of the committee. Vice Chair Harley, 4th District. Okay. Councilmember Oliver, 3rd District.
Present.
Councilmember Field, 8th District.
Present.
Okay. I would like to recognize Vice Chair Harley.
Thank you.
Is here. Councilmember Spadola at large.
Present.
Council President Congo.
Here.
I also believe we have on Zoom, I can't see it, but I believe we have our newest council member, Councilmember Tish Bracy. Are you there?
I'm here, present.
Okay. All right. And as council members come, please let me or Marshall know so that you can be recognized. At this time, just as a friendly reminder, only members of the committee should be making motions and seconding. And at this point, I'm going to cut right to the agenda. Oh, we have Councilmember Darby, 2nd District. She's present on Zoom. I believe that's everyone. Oh,
Councilmember McCoy.
Councilmember McCoy, 6th District. Thank you. All right. All right, at this point, we can proceed with the agenda. It's this first, as we do every month, we just defer to the administration for a update on the ARPA funds. Do we have Ms. Stephanie Mergler present, or Ms. Tang?
Good evening. Yes, I will be giving the presentation.
Okay. All right, the floor is yours, Ms. Mergler.
Certainly. Thank you. WITN, do we have the presentation? Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. I will be giving an overview of the office funding by category. If you would advance to the next slide. Thank you very much. Okay. This is a very high level summary of amounts allocated by category. I will go into a detail on each of the categories in the following slides. So the main takeaway from this slide is that we started with $55 million. We have allocated about $48.5 million. And we have about 6.8 million.
Ms. Mergler, I'm not sure if it's your microphone. You sound a little bit faint.
Oh, sorry about that.
I don't know if that's on our end.
I'll speak a little louder and a little closer to the computer. Does that sound better?
Yes, that sounds better. Thank you.
Perfect. Alrighty. As I was saying, we have about 6.8 million left unallocated. If we go to the next slide. Okay. In administrative costs, we start with a budget of 1.8 million, and we have allocated the entire amount. As you can see at the bottom, we have one new project this month. That is Allied Construction, who is replacing EDIS as our construction project management firm. On the next slide. Building safer communities, we start with a budget of $8 million. We have allocated 2.8 million, and we have about 5.2 million left unallocated. As you can see at the bottom, we have allocated funds for the community-based public safety collective and for organizations they have identified as intervention orgs. On the next slide. Community investment. We start with a budget of 4.85 million. We have allocated about 4.6 million, and we have about 270,000 left remaining. There are no new projects since last month. And next slide. In neighborhood revitalization, we start with a total budget of $22 million. That entire $22 million has been allocated, and there are no new projects since last month. And then next slide. This is workforce development. We start
Excuse me,
with the
Ms.
budget.
Mergler.
Oh, absolutely.
We have a question from Councilmember Oliver. Question about that last chart.
Yeah, when
Sure.
I was Habitat for Humanity, you saying we have a balance. Is that the balance on the paper? Because it went so fast, I wasn't.
Sure. WITM, would you mind going back to the previous slide? Thank you.
I believe this is the Bennett Street housing project.
Yeah, the birth
Specifically.
kindness. I'm just, what's that balance? I was just asking, is that 1 point?
Okay, so
And-
yeah,
and-
so
That's all I want.
And I believe the question specifically, Ms. Mergler, is what is the true balance on that? Or
What was
is it $2 million, so the amount
Yes.
is unspent?
correct. They are currently in the architectural and engineering phase for that project. So they haven't started construction yet. Once they do, they will start submitting drawdown requests on that funding.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Mergler.
Okay. And then finally, workforce development. We start with a budget of $4 million. About $2.6 million has been allocated. So we have a remaining balance of about $1.4 million unallocated. And there are no new projects since last month. And then final slide, still $12 million for revenue replacement and about $2.7 million essential pay for essential workers. Okay, any questions?
I guess just first off, thank you very much for your presentation. And I guess my question is, since last month, there hasn't been any new projects, it seems like, correct?
Only the ones highlighted in blue.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah. And the ones highlighted in blue, can you,
I apologize. If you have a black and white
I
copy.
have a black and white copy.
Sure, absolutely. So if I'll go back to the original, I'll just kind of call them out for you. So in administrative costs, the new project this month is Allied Construction. That is their contract for 1 year will be $110,000. The slide indicates $440,000. That includes all of the out years. So that will run through 2026. They are replacing EDIS. On the next slide, the 5 new projects, community-based public safety collective, and then intervention organizations identified by the Public Safety Collective, which are the Center for Structural Equity, Youth Advocate Programs, Network Connect, and Group Violence Intervention. Let's see, then those are all of the new projects. So just in admin and building safer communities.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Harley?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question, so what was the reason that we switched from EDIS to Allied?
Allied is significantly less expensive, but can provide us with quite a bit more man hours. So the contract for EDIS for 1 year was $300,000. We were only essentially dedicated one person from EDIS who was really only giving us about part-time for the week. So maybe it wasn't a very good value for our funds. So we looked into Allied Construction, who is able to provide us essentially a full-time person for significantly less cost.
A follow-up, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
So are they providing actual work or just
Yes.
Consulting, or both?
What they're doing, we have, as you can see under neighborhood revitalization, multiple projects going that are construction based. What this person will do will go out to the job site, review the work that is done, ensure that it is on time, and in the correct, budget parameters. Essentially, project manage all of the different construction projects that we're currently running across vendors, and just make sure that all of the work is being done to our standards, that all of the work is being done in the correct time frame, et cetera. So,
Thank you.
Any other questions from members of the committee? All right, turning to the members on Zoom. I can't see the hands, so. Any hands up? Oh, okay. Let me Vice Chair Harley?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry. I did want to know, what is Community-Based Public Safety Collective?
So that is the group out of Newark, New Jersey, who did our landscape analysis.
No need to explain anymore. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to turn it to members of the public if there's any comments.
Yeah,
All right, whoa.
Chairman Johnson, just.
Okay, first, if there's no comments from members of the public, anybody with their hand raised, then I'll turn it back to council, and I believe Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Bass-Knight has a question, or?
Yes, I know that one of the items we discussed in the landscape analysis meeting was regarding the round table. So I didn't see that listed here. And I wasn't for sure when it comes to the Hope Commission, was that something in the pipeline or not?
We currently do not have that
Yeah,
pipeline.
I can answer that. Right.
Chief of Staff Washington? Yes.
Yes, good evening, everyone. The Hope Commission, that proposal is actually one that deals with workforce development. So it wouldn't be awarded out as Safer Communities. And we're still reviewing that proposal, and I have to discuss it with the mayor. I believe I sent you an email earlier letting you know that we're still reviewing it.
Okay, and specifically, Chief of Staff, regarding the roundtable, will that be included as part of the breakout for building safer streets?
Yeah, so this is what you see before you is the organizations that they suggested first. And we'll have our next updated ARPA table will show the allocation for those roundtable discussions, which will fall under WCAC.
Okay, WCAC. Got it. All right, thank you very much for that clarification. Any last comments or questions by members of council? All right, seeing none, thank you very much, as always, Ms. Mergler. And as a follow-up, can you please kindly email a copy of the report to us from members of council, just so we can see it for those who aren't present?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, excellent. All right, thank you very much. All right, now turning to the next item on the agenda, I do have, as a housekeeping matter, I do have a statement from Chief of Staff Tanny Washington regarding the disparity study, and I will read it into the record at this time. Memorandum to Finance Committee Chair, Councilman Johnson, Chris Johnson, and all members of the Finance Committee, from Tanya Washington, Chief of Staff. Date December 5th, 2022, regarding the disparity study. Dear Finance Committee Chair Chris Johnson and all members of the Finance Committee, it is the goal of the Purzycki administration and City Council to identify serious concerns, some deeply rooted in history, regarding the city's procurement process. Specific concerns are related to access to the city's procurement system for minority business owners and system's overall fairness and impartiality. We had hoped to present information this month regarding the findings of the disparity study, which is being conducted by the nationally renowned firm Miller 3. As you know, we've engaged Miller 3 for a comprehensive review of Wilmington's procurement system, which includes examining current policies, practices, and processes. When the final report and corrective action steps are complete, we will share this information with council so that together we can discuss the information and make some important decisions. We all know going into this endeavor that there will be much work to do, and it's even more complex than we had imagined. We look forward to presenting the information to council in January and to appearing before this committee in early February for a complete presentation and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief of Staff. Besides the letter, is there anything else you have to add at this time?
No, I think that, this effort, it's really involved. It's a really involved process, and we want to get it right. And so when we come before you in February, we want to make sure that we've covered every aspect of this, this whole procurement process and what we have to do to address any undue fairness and impartiality that may have been, come to light through the actual report itself. I think that, pretty much sums it up. We're still in discussions with Miller 3 and the preliminary findings. And, it's a really robust discussion between the finance department, economic development, and some of our executive staff on the action steps going forward. So, and once we have that, we want to work hand in hand with council to come up with any legislative remedies that are needed. And at the same time, discuss what those policy solutions will be as well.
Thank you very much, Chief of Staff. I believe Vice Chair Harley has a question.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Chief of Staff Washington, so the Miller 3, they provided the findings. That's number one. That's my first question. That's correct?
They will provide the findings. Yeah, they're still in draft form. They're preliminary. They're not finalized. We're still in discussions with them.
Due to disputes? Because typically, once they provide the findings, if you disagree, you have to go through a dispute process. So is that what you're saying, that you're disputing some of the findings? Because typically, when there's a finding, they share the finding, and then you can dispute it. So is that?
No, it's really preliminary, and we're asking questions, and they're basically explaining to us what some of this is. Some of it has a lot of legal jargon, and it's just how we as a government unit will address it.
Mm-hmm. And my last follow-up for this, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
So based on this communication, y'all are going to complete the preliminary, and it says that when the final report and corrective action steps are completed, that's when council will look at all of this. We'll see
council,
everything, like all at one time.
Yes, council's going to get everything.
Okay, because I know we had mentioned the last time if there was any way that we could see the findings, and at that time you had mentioned that it was still in discussion. So
right,
that's why I was asking that question, because once the preliminaries are confirmed and concluded, then you're going to go into your corrective actions.
that's correct. That's when we'll present everything before council in February. But you'll have it ahead of the Finance Committee, Councilmember Harley.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from members of the committee? Any other questions from those on Zoom? All right, seeing none, I'm going to turn it to members of the public for any public comments. Okay, seeing none, this time I'll turn it back to the committee for any final comments or questions. All right, well, thank you very much, Chief of Staff Washington. Again, I appreciate the letter, number one, I think updating us to where we're at, and we definitely look forward to getting the report in January and then inviting you back at the February meeting. We are looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
All right, Moving right along to the agenda, I'd like to move to item number 3 on the agenda, which is ordinance 22-48, which is an ordinance to expand the eligible uses of community support grants made by city council. I believe the prime sponsor is Councilmember Spadola, so the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to set the table for this and provide some background, each year, every council member gets $10,000 to donate to nonprofits or for scholarship funds. And for, if you went on the wilmingtoncitycouncil.com website and clicked on the menu, click on City Council, click on Community Support, you can see the specific guidelines in there as well as past distributions of that money. And then, so we have that. And then the second item that brings this legislation to what makes it necessary is we all had the one-time allotment of ARPA funds of $100,000 each. And so that gives us, generally speaking, the community support funds have been used for, you know, $200, $300 for a nonprofit doing a local event or something like that, and scholarships, of course. But with the ARPA funds comes an opportunity for individual council members to have more of an impact, especially by teaming up with other council members, putting $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 together to really move the needle. And something unbeknownst to me until it came up was that our community support guidelines that were not devised by this council, I don't know who they were devised by, but there was a specific prohibition in them to prohibit capital projects. Simplest way to define what a capital project is would be funding for sticks and bricks, anything to do with buildings, equipment, things like that. When you think of the mayor's project on the east side, that is entirely a capital project, funding to build things. And so, you know, and generally speaking, capital projects have the lowest risk of fraud because if somebody's coming to you and saying, hey, I need money to build this, they either built it or they didn't. You can see it. It's tangible. It's not intangible like a lot of other necessary funding. So I just I don't think we need this prohibition. I think council should be allowed to use the funds for capital projects as nonprofits bring those needs to us, and this is a way to do that. I didn't necessarily think it needed legislation, but Marshall thought it was the cleanest way to do it, considering it's in the guidelines and there's no clear way to change the community support guidelines. So was happy to do that, and so that is why we have this legislation before us. So happy to take any questions.
I believe
I have a question.
Councilmember Oliver, and then I see you, Councilmember Darby. You're next.
Yes, so as, I guess I'm as a sponsor, I think this is a good piece of legislation, but my question is normally capital projects or at least have like 6 digits behind them. I guess I'm saying, I guess it could be an impact. I guess I was trying to say how much of an impact, because I know this is a one-time shot for the ARPers. So I was just trying to wrap my head, but I guess you're saying if somebody may need a sidewalk done or whatever, we should be able to use it with discretionary. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, you know, capital project could be anything from a, you know, community center's bathroom, $10,000 to, you know, and up and up. So it just kind of gives us the option to do that. Doesn't mandate anybody to do anything.
Yeah,
but it's just-
individually.
Yes, correct.
Gotcha.
Or collaboratively, as we wish.
Okay, I got you. Okay, thank you.
I believe Vice Chair Harley, was your hand up?
Yeah, I guess the only question I would have is that this will only impact the ARPA dollars. So when we go into our budget for 2023, how does that impact the discretionary dollars? And I'm only asking that question because I always felt like, you know, once you open Pandora's box and other organizations may find out about it, I want to be able to speak to it accurately to say that was for ARPA dollars versus our regular discretionary dollars. I'm not sure who that question should be presented to. Marcia.
Ms. Basnick?
Yes.
Clarity on that?
Yeah, I just want to just provide clarity and if we can just refrain from the word ARPA funds, because since we took the funds from ARPA, we made it part of our council special funds. So going forward with this change, even with our discretionary funds, the funds will be allowed for capital purposes with your regular discretionary funds as well.
follow up, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
So I too, first of all, for the record, I think that, this is a good piece of legislation. I just wanted to understand the long-term impact. And then I guess my other question is like, why did the definition change from when it went from the administration to council? Because if I heard you correctly.
Because it's a matter of, before the funds were ARPA funds, and they took the funds out of the ARPA pot of funds to put them into council regular funds, so it's no longer ARPA funds. So that's the reason even in the legislation itself, it's no longer referred to as ARPA, and the conditions and everything change. So right now, council can use this money almost, at its discretion, whereas with ARPA funds, it's more stricter restrictions. And that was the whole purpose of taking out of ARPA funds to put it in a special pot of funds for council members.
Okay, you mean from one category
Yes.
to the other? Okay.
Yeah, just a matter of accounting burden,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, thanks for the clarity. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I believe we have Council Member Darby on Zoom.
Sorry, yes, I am in support of this resolution. I would like to be added as a co-sponsor. I think this is needed. I think specifically for nonprofits to be able to make decisions on how they're going to use the money. I think is important. There are a lot of small capital projects that need to be done in our community, and we can pull together as council people. Specifically for me, when I voted for the ARPA fund monies to be transferred to City Council, I did not realize that it was going to change some criteria to what we can use this money for. And I know specifically this is going to impact some discussions that I was having with some nonprofits in my community who need to do capital projects. So I am in support of this resolution because the nonprofits in the second district, they are in need of this. Thank you.
All right. Second round of questions. Vice Chair Harley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did mean to ask to be added as a co-sponsor, and I have to agree that I think that this is definitely going to be a great game changer for our nonprofits, because a lot, we do have a lot of nonprofits in the city of Wilmington, a gazillion of them, but there are some that are really making impact, in our communities, and some of them are struggling. And with the passing of this legislation, I think as a council, we will be positioning ourselves to enable some of these organizations to be stronger and therefore make a greater and deeper impact within the community. So thank you, Councilmember Spadola, for presenting this.
I'd like to turn it to members of the public first. Is any public comments? All right, seeing none, turn it back to council for any final questions or comments. Councilmember Oliver?
Sure. I too would like to be a co-sponsor on this. As long as we're dealing with the nonprofit organizations, I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
All right. President Congo?
Yes, I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
All right, and finally, I just have some brief comments. I would like to be added as a co-sponsor as well. I am aware, I know during the negotiations, there was a specific nonprofit, I believe, Councilmember Darby and Councilmember Spadola brought up to me that the allocation was small. It was, I think under $50,000, but, we weren't permitted to support that organization. So I appreciate the effort. It's a problem I would hope we have in the future. This is a one-time shot of infusion of funds. Outside of that, we normally don't have it. As Councilmember Spadola said, we normally have the $10,000 and $12,000, which unfortunately is not able to do much in terms of capital support. But what the hope is, there'll be a different tranche of money, hopefully coming from the Congress, I would hope, and then we'll have that problem again. But I appreciate it, and I look forward to helping out nonprofits. All right, any final words from the sponsor?
No, appreciate everyone's support.
All right, since this is an ordinance, it does need to be formally voted out of committee. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to move ordinance 22-48 out of committee to full council for a vote.
So move.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded to move ordinance 22-48 out of committee to full council. I'm going to do a voice vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it, and ordinance 22-48 will be on the council agenda, I believe. Is it going to be this week, Marshall, or? January 3rd. Okay, January 3rd, okay. All right. January 5th, okay. All right, I appreciate it, thank you so much. Now I'm going to move down the agenda. As a housekeeping matter, ordinance 22-45 is going to be held tonight. And now moving down the agenda, the last item on the agenda is a resolution naming the appointments to the Fines and Fees Task Force. I believe we have Council Member Darby, who is the prime sponsor. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. So I guess I'll back up to how we got here tonight. So about, I've been on council for about 2 years. So about a year and a half ago, Council Member Michelle Harley and Council Member Cabrera, we all got together to talk about fees and fines. We had several meetings about starting a fees and fines task force. That's when our lovely Daniel Walker was with us. And we been working on that piece of legislation for almost over a year. Last month, City Council agreed that we do need a fees and fines task force to look at all fees and fines throughout the city of Wilmington, which includes parking, water, red light camera tickets, things to do with anything that a constituent can receive, right? Really looking at those fees and fines and are they equitable? How does it impact our budget? Having those conversations around what legislations need to be passed? How do we enforce and hold entities accountable for changes that are going to happen? So I'm excited for this task force to exist. And as I was talking, I should have been bringing up the names. Let me see, here it goes. So in this resolution, on the task force, you have our committee chair for the Finance and Economic Development, which is Councilmember Chris Johnson, Council Member at Large Maria Cabrera, Cheyenne Miller from Network Delaware, Kobe Owens from the NAACP, Kaylin Richards of Delaware Center for Justice, Hanif Salam of Southbridge Civic Association, Jennifer Tompkins of Wilmington Urban League, Christian Willauer of the 5th District Neighborhood Planning Council, David Ross, 4th District Neighborhood Planning Council, and Andre Harris from the 3rd District Civic Association. So those are the names of the people who have been appointed to this Fees and Fines Task Force. So I look forward to working with the administration, other council people who are passionate about fees and fines, also working with our national group where the city of Wilmington was accepted. We got a grant for $50,000 that we're launching. We should have a website up soon. In January, we'll have a fees and fines fund to help constituents make payments towards their fees and fines that they owe to the city. We're hiring some organizers, people to go out on the street, researchers. So we are really ramping up for the new year to provide some services, get the research done, and provide more recommendations for fees and fines reform for the city of Wilmington. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Darby. Any comments or questions from members of council?
Yeah, I have a question.
Councilmember Oliver?
Yes, thank you. Now, I know we've been working on this for some time with the administration, and there is already a contingency group working on the fees and fines. I just was trying to get some clarity because I know the administration sent out some, is somebody's speaker on or something? I know we are rolling out, I mean, I know some council members, about 5 or 6 of them are already involved with the fees and fines. I thought the task force that Councilman Darby was working on would be the task force that they put in for a grant which was dealing with water and parking tickets. The fees and fines, administration's been working on it for some time, and just was trying to understand. I thought this task force was going to be for the application that was filled out with Christine Wardline. So I'm a little confused here because this task force is kind of already, we've already done all of this pretty much with the fees and fines regarding reducing the parking tickets from $40 to $20. Also, it was a whole list of things. I just don't have them in front of me. So I'm a bit confused regarding this task force for fees and fines when most of this is already taken care of. Besides maybe going on the website, and I think we have someone in constituent services now, Heather Hook, and they have a whole nother process going on. I really thought this was about the water and the parking.
Councilmember Darby.
Okay, yes. So this legislation or task force has always been something separate from the fees and fines program that we apply to. So we have been working on a group of council people. We have already working on a task force with Daniel Walker. So this task force is something that's separate from that program. So it was never mentioned that it had anything to do with the program. Now, it will, since we do have the program now, because before we even applied for the program, we were already doing the task force. But now that the program is here, we will work in conjunction with the program, but the program ends, I don't know, April, May, maybe, I think. So when the program ends, we'll still be able to continue the work around fee and fine reform. Fees and fines for the task force is bigger than just parking. There's other fees and fines that continuously needs to be assessed. So this isn't a one-time thing. We don't just do reforms and say, okay, that happened, we're done, right? It's a continuous ongoing work that needs to be done, and it's bigger than parking. So the fees and fines program, the focus in that application is on parking and water fees and fines. The fees and fines task force, it could be focused on any type of fees and fines within the city of Wilmington. But as of right now, we'll just start off with the water and the parking because that is, because we have the program with us. So we might as well work in conjunction with them to provide support, do the work. And then once that program ends, we can continue to do that in collaboration with the administration, in collaboration with the community, in collaboration with council people, and continue to have those conversations. So I'm not sure where the confusion is from, but it has always been two separate things, and a task force was something that was worked on first. The program came up, we applied, great, that will provide us support on our task force.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Darby. I wasn't confused because Maria told me and Councilman Harley, so somehow, but nevertheless, thanks for answering the question. Thank you.
And just for the record, Councilmember Darby, I do have you noted as serving on the committee as well, correct?
Correct, yes,
Okay,
yes,
great.
yes, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to establish that. And then I think the only question I had is just, again, in terms of timeline, so does the task force expect to have an organizational meeting next month?
Yeah, so I was hoping that we could vote on it at City Council meeting this Thursday, but I was told that we can't. So we have to wait till January. So as soon as it's like official, we will convene and we will start having this conversation on step one. And then we'll have different levels of different types of fees and fines that we'll be looking at. And we'll also be talking about accountability and enforcement too, because a few years ago, the mayor administration announced fees and fines reform similar to how they did a few months ago. And all of those were not implemented or enforced. So the fees and fines task force will make sure that that piece happens.
Okay. in these task force meetings will be public meetings, correct?
Correct. There'll be public meetings. Everything is open.
All right, excellent. All right, Vice Chair Harley?
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Yep.
Chair. One of the things that Councilmember Darby noted was that this is a group that had already been meeting. Is that correct, Councilmember Darby?
On the task force,
Well, not these individuals, but you mentioned that in the community, like, were y'all getting together previously as it relates to, you had mentioned earlier that this took place. Were you talking about, what group were you talking about that started, it had already started?
Councilmember Darby?
or yeah, I'm not sure what you're referring to, but the first how I got integrated into the conversation was that I was like, hey, Daniel, Chief of Staff, how do we reform our fees and fines? He said, hey, Councilwoman Cabrera and Councilmember Michelle Harley are interested in this. Let's have a meeting. So then I met with you guys probably 2-3 times about it. We've been working on it. And then the community got involved when I found out about the program, and I reached out to community members and experts and different people and say, hey, can you help us apply to this program?
Okay,
So,
you just explained it.
I don't know.
Okay.
Specific part.
Oh, no, you had alluded to, I'm sorry. You pretty much answered my question. You had alluded to it earlier. I just wanted to be clear if you were just talking about myself and you and Councilmember Cabrera, in addition to any other individuals or other groups that were meeting. So that's what I was referring to, and you answered my question. Thank you.
Oh,
Good. Thank you, Councilmember Darby. Councilmember Oliver, I
Thank
believe,
you.
has a follow-up question.
Yeah, no, I understand it, but I just want to make some clarity, as we've always been talking about fees and fines in session 107. I've met with Rashima, with Yolanda, so it's been an on conversation, so this is not anything new. I just want to put some clarity to that. So talk to Daniel about it also. So everybody's been interested in fees and fines. That's why I was glad to be part of the administration, along with Maria Spadola. I think Michelle was involved also, and I know Yolanda was on one of the calls regarding fees and fines. But as long as we're trying to, work on it, it's fine. I just want to put some clarity on that. This is not the first rodeo with constituents in our community. That's why we took the initiative to sit down and talk about it. But like I always say, we're all talking about the same thing, just a different tone. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from members of the committee? All right, I'm now going to turn to the public. Any comments from members of the public? All right. Seeing none, again, I appreciate the presentation by Councilmember Darby. This is a resolution, so it does not need to be formally voted out of committee. I believe this is set for is it going to be the January 5th agenda, Ms. Bass Knight? Okay. It's set for the January 5th agenda. Thank you. All right. At this time, we've completed all the items for the December Finance Committee. As January is going to be right around the corner, and then we'll be turning into budget time, so we're going to be very, very busy first quarter of 2023. But for now, these are all the items we have, so continue to keep engaged. Email us on council if there's any questions or concerns. Have a happy holiday. Be safe out there. And at this time, is there a motion to adjourn?
So, second.
To move and second it. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, well, that concludes the Finance and Economic Development meeting, and we look forward to seeing everyone in January. Thank you all.